You cannot use the education at the fullest. That's why we need to bring the change of the mindset. Academic skills, technology, training is all important, but without the mindset, we cannot get the fullest of the education and that we have. That's why in Mind Education, we make the curriculum based on these three pillars. Number one is the development of ability to think deeply. The more generation is passing by, there is less contemplation. So people are not thinking as deep as the older generation is thinking deeply. Why? Because the life is comfortable. Now this mobile phone, the gadgets has come, all right? Now you can get any information, especially now with ChatGPT. You can even do your homework, you can even do your project with ChatGPT, isn't it? So you don't have to think. In life, without thinking deeply, you can get all the answers around all over the world. So now, that has really made this new generation for people to think less, and think less. And whenever the problem comes, they don't think and they just act. Is that right? But now, what do you need in the Ministry of Health? A department called the mental health. Right now, the suicide rate in Kenya is skyrocketing. Wow. Because, actually, this is very strange because yesterday I received the news. I was on KTN about 4 years ago, and I spoke about mind education and about prevention of suicide. And that time, I was one of the guests, and there was also another guest who came who was a suicide prevention specialist. And 2 days ago, she committed suicide. So when I saw that news, I was so shocked. So why do people commit suicide? Because people, their hearts are getting weaker and weaker and weaker. But through the mindset change program, we train them so that they can have a stronger heart, stronger mindset, so that whenever challenges and difficulties and the problems come, they have the strong heart and the mindset to go over that difficulties and the problem. Because in life, in the world, there is not even a single person who doesn't face difficulties and problems. Even the billionaires, the richest person in the whole world, Elon Musk, he faces challenges and problems. Is that right? Yes. Even Trump, he faces problems. Yes, people try to kill you. But all of that, they go over. Everything is alright. But some people, they can't go over. Why? The mindset has become very weak because of one or two reasons. Then how can you build your mindset and your heart to become strong so that you can overcome? So, formation of a strong heart. Another thing is cohesion through exchange. Now, one of the problems that we face also here in this country, Kenya, corruption. Is that right? Yes. If we can only remove that corruption, even our businesses can also do great, even greater. Even the country as well. I went to Rwanda 3 years ago, and I went to Rwanda 2 years ago. I saw the big change. I was so surprised. It became even more clean. And then the building structures also became more clean and taller and even better. So, why did that happen? And my friend was telling me, in Rwanda, if you are caught with corruption, then your life is completely messed up from that time. You understand what I mean, right? So, cohesion through exchange, why people are getting into corruption, why people are fighting, why is there a lot of disputes and hatred amongst one another? Because they are selfish, they're only thinking about themselves. Is that right? Then how can you change that mindset so that you can exchange with one another? Many people think, I need to take it and I need to hold it so that I can be happy and successful. That is not it. Even the Bible says, to give is more blessed than receiving. Is that right? That is really true. If you actually live that life, it is really, really true. It's not only about the giving wealth or giving money, helping other people, give your heart as well. When you give your heart and exchange with other people, you will also feel that great happiness and also joy in our heart. Sometimes, even in the family, there are difficulties. Why is there difficulties in the family? Because you shut off of heart sharing together with your husband, with your children, amongst your family members. Is that right? But there is nothing special. But just having conversation together with husband and wife and the children really makes you happy at times, also in your heart as well. So cohesion through exchange. Through this pillar, we also learn how to overcome all these challenges that I have just mentioned. When you bring a change of the mindset, when we change our mindset just a little bit, we don't even have to try to change our mindset completely at once. If we change our mindset even a little bit, then you start seeing the real change in life. It's not about just the soft skills. In a real practical life, in a real practical business management and HR, you start seeing the change. I would like to talk about a country that was able to change completely just by changing the mindset of the people. It is this country. This is a picture of that country of 1950s. As you see from that picture, everything was destroyed. And this country is South Korea, the country that I come from. South Korea, during the time of the Second World War, we were colonized by Japan. At that time, Japan was a very powerful country, right? And it was so powerful, and they even thought of attacking the United States at Pearl Harbor, and they were completely destroyed. And during that time, Japan, they colonized many of the Pacific Island countries, including South Korea, including Korea Peninsula. So after we received independence at the end of the World War II, which was 1945, we thought now finally we have the freedom. But only 5 years later, in 1950, North Korea attacked South Korea with the support and the help of China and Russia, and then wanted to make the whole peninsula a communism country. So 5 years later, there was a Korean War, where now everything was destroyed, and that Korean War has lasted for 3 years, from 1950 to 1953. For 3 years of war, 3 million people have died. And everything in that country have been destroyed. Not only that, 10 years after the Korean War, South Korea GDP per capita income was $79, which means the war finished in 3 years, 1953. 10 years after the war, GDP was $79, which was about 10,000 Kenya shillings. Can you survive 1 year with 10,000 Kenya shillings? No. So basically in that country, everybody just lived like a beggar after the war. Everything was destroyed. But not only that, when you look at South Korea as a country, everything was just impossible. South Korea is a very small land. South Korea can fit in Kenya. Do you know how many times? If you get this right, I'll buy you dinner. South Korea can fit in Kenya 7 times. So when I look at Kenya, Kenya is such a blessed country. South Korea is a small country. Not only that, South Korea in that small country, land mass, 70% of the land is covered by mountains. So can you do a big plantations on the mountains? So these mountains is not like Mount Longbolot. These mountains are real sharp, uphill mountains where everything was just impossible. Not only that, South Korea, we don't have any underground natural resources. No steel, no coal, no petroleum, no nothing. Not only that, South Korea, to the west is a sea, to the east is also a sea, to the south is a sea, to the north, our enemy, North Korea. They're our enemy until today. I use the word enemy because when the war breaks out, I automatically turn into a soldier and I need to go fight. And so I was also a soldier in the army. And so South Korea, completely the whole side was blocked off. There's no way that you can do the training on land. But when I see Kenya, you are sharing the border with Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, South Sudan. Somalia, is that a plus or minus? But anyways, we share the borders, which means that we can have easy and cheap trading. Is that right? But South Korea during the time, we didn't even have a huge container ships. So we couldn't even do the trading. We trading, which means not a good flow of economy as well. Not only that, South Korea during the winter time, right now they're entering into a winter because it's November. During South Korea winter time, temperature goes down to -20. The worst case in the mountains are -30 degrees Celsius. Do you know how cold -30 degrees is? I know some of you are wearing jackets right now. I'm telling you, this is a perfect weather right now. And during the summer, temperature goes up to 40 degrees Celsius. All weather in Korea, it was not favoring us at all. Not only that, South Korea, during the Korean War, we didn't even have one tank to fight the war as well. So, South Korea, when you look at all kinds of conditions, we did not have any condition to be one of the best developed countries. South Korea, during this time of 1950s, 60s, 70s, South Korea was the poorest country in the world. 1970s, the founding father of the Republic of Kenya, President Kenyatta, also sponsored financially to South Korea. So that's how much South Korea was so poor. Because of war, we had so many war orphans. Because of also war, just everything was destroyed. This is a picture of South Korea in 1970s. The walls were made by just plywood and roof with mabati. And during the winter times, sleeping in such kind of a place, people would even literally freeze to death. And this picture was also taken in 1970s, the capital city, Seoul, South Korea. All the houses are built with just mabati, the river. This is called Cheonggyecheon River. It is so dirty, a lot of viruses and germs, and so many people had to die because of that as well. But now, through the policy of mindset change program, such a poor country like South Korea, just within 50 years, just the same place, Cheonggyecheon River, I'll show you the picture of today. Are you ready for the new picture? Yes. No one was reading, so I was wondering. So, this is the picture of 1970s, same place, 50 years later, it becomes like this. Now, this is the CBD of Seoul capital city. Even His Excellency the President went to Korea in May, and his hotel was also around here as well. So now this water was so clean, you can even drink it. People even jog, people also come with a family, and they walk around. This is a picture of 1970s Namsan in South Korea, the capital city Seoul. 50 years later, this same place changes like this. Changes like what? Like this. That same place changed like this. Now, I hope one day, is there anyone who has been to South Korea? Yes, not that one. Yes, I hope we can organize a trip. You know what I mean, right? Yes, a trip to South Korea. You gotta see it to yourself. This is the State House Road in 1969. This same place now changed like this. And this is estates. Like in Kenya, you can say Roysambu, Gidulai, Agare. I don't know where you're coming from, but yes, this is estate in 1970s. Now, 50 years later, it changed like this. It's a small apartment. It seems like it's a small, but it's one of them is 15 to 20 stories tall apartment. This is also the tallest building in South Korea, 555 meters tall, so basically half kilometer upward. And 123 stories. Every time I go with the guests, I go all the way to the top observatory, and then you can see the whole Seoul capital city 360 as well. So now, 50 years down the line, South Korea GDP per capita from $79 per year, GDP per capita has changed to 35,000 US dollars. So one of the OECD country, host of G20 and powerful IT nation, and also trading is the number 6 in the world, and yet in South Korea we don't have any underground natural resources to trade. So when you look at it as a graph, since 1963 GDP per capita for South Korea was $79, in the year 2021, 35,000 US dollars. So when we compare this graph of a growth of economy with Kenya, 1963 GDP per capita was $94 ahead of Korea. But now, year 2021, GDP per capita income in Kenya was $1,838, which Kenya had 17 times increase. And yet South Korea had 350 times increase in economy. So I'm not here to talk about South Korea has 350 times increase. That's not my point, is that right? Now we need to understand and know what made this difference. We gotta understand what made this difference, and I am giving you the answer. It is the change of the mindset of the people. Now, there was in South Korea, there was the fifth president of South Korea called President Park. His full name is Park Chung-hee, but President Park family name. So President Park, who was a 3-star general in the army, became the president. He really wanted to change the country. But he really wanted to passionately change the country and develop the country. He realized one thing. People did not want to change. People just wanted to remain where they are. They were just feeling comfortable the way they used to live their life. So the president thought, unless he first changed the mindset of Koreans, the Korean people, he realized he cannot change his nation. So he did a mindset education training for all the chiefs of the village. And then he sent the chief to the ground so that chiefs would also go and train the people of the change of the mindset. Not only training them on the soft skills of the mindset education, but also gave them projects so that they can apply what they were taught on mind education into a real life and reality. So people in their mindset began to change little by little. Everyone, do you know what happens when the people's mindset change? People, with their mindset change, they start doing not the things that are possible, but they start doing the things that are impossible. And make that impossible to become possible. Amen. Amen. We are so much used to, and you want to do what kind of work? You only want to do the things that are possible and make it possible. That one, anybody can do. But when the people's mindsets start changing, people they start doing the things that seems impossible and make what is impossible to possible. So if I were to give you a few examples, South Korea, because of the cold winter weather, we don't have even one single coffee tree in South Korea. And yet, South Korea is the world's 3rd largest coffee exporting country in the whole world. I'm sorry to tell you this, but South Korea exports more coffee than Kenya. You might ask, how? We import the best coffee beans from all around the world. We import coffee beans from Kenya, Ethiopia, Paraguay, Brazil coffee, and Jamaica, Blue Mountain coffees, the best quality coffees. And then we did the research of the taste of the people of the continent. I think Kenyans, we like something sweet, right? Yes, you cannot say no because as a cat, so putting 3 big spoons of sugar in your tea. In Korea, if you put sugar in the tea, your eyes will become so big. How can you put a sugar in the tea? So Korea, we do not have any culture of putting the sugar in the tea. So now, South Korea, we import the best quality coffee beans and then we did the research of the taste of the people. And then we realized the way, the things that they like to taste from continent to continent is all different. And then we blend the coffee beans according to the taste of the people that we research. We pack it in a open paper and then we export it back to Kenya. Yes, now that's how South Korea became one of the also best coffee exporting country in the world. Not only that, also South Korea, we don't have any petroleum. Just, I told you, when the mindset change happens, they started doing things that are impossible and make it possible. So, just because we didn't have petroleum, we never believed that we cannot export petroleum. So, we imported the crude oil from Saudi Arabia, and then we did the processing, and then we made tires and asphalts and textile materials, many chemicals, and also petroleums and diesels, and we began to export. South Korea is the number one in exporting petroleum products to the whole world. And yet, in South Korea, we don't have even one drop of petroleum. Not only that, South Korea, as I've said, we don't have any steel. But South Korea has the world's 5th largest steel producing company called Postal. And in South Korea, we don't have any steel, but we started building ships. And South Korea has the number 1 largest and the world's best shipbuilding yard in the whole world. You know, in Mombasa, those huge container ships, 70% of those container ships are all built in South Korea. You know, those huge ships that import and export LPG gas, almost all of them are built in South Korea. So those humongous ships that carry all kinds of chemicals and all these, many of them are built in South Korea. If you build one shipbuilding yard in a city, the whole population can be employed because of that shipbuilding yard. That's how huge this business is. Not only that, also South Korea, we have a motor company called Hyundai. Have you ever heard about Hyundai? Yes, in Kenya we don't have a lot of Hyundai vehicles because our steering wheel is on the other opposite side. But now this Hyundai, they have 50 years of making automobile. And Japan, they have 100 years of making cars. Americans, they have 120 years of making vehicles. And yet, in the land of America, where they say they invented the vehicle, in that land, Hyundai is number 2 in selling the best-selling automobile in the United States. Number 1 is Toyota, which means that just in 50 years, they have defeated all the skills and technology of America and also Japan as well. Not only that, also Samsung. When I first came to Kenya in the year 2009, it was the era of Nakumat. It's been a long time since you heard that word, right? I was a little bit discouraged because when I went to Nakumat and went to electronic park, I didn't see any Samsung product. In the year 2009, it was all about Sony. So, you go to Madame Grace's home and then you find the Sony TV. That time, you would think, she's pretty rich. But today, if you go and see Sony in her house, you're like, she must be poor. She's been using that TV now for 20 years. Now, when you visit home, you gotta see what kind of TV? Samsung. What kind of another TV? LG. Everyone, can you all say Samsung? Samsung is a Korean word, pure Korean word. Did you know that? Sam means number 3. S-A-M. Sam means 3. Sung means stars. So Samsung means 3 stars. And LG is also a Korean company. LG is an abbreviation of life is good. So that's why it's LG. So Samsung and LG now, can you find Sony? Gulf, you go to Gulf, can you find Sony? You cannot find the Nakama as well, right? But you cannot also find the Sony, Aiwa, all these Japanese electronic companies. Just within 10 years, Samsung became the world #1 and the best electronic companies in the whole world. When I first came here, I didn't find any Samsung. Even in America, Samsung was not so famous in the whole world. Just in 10 years, Samsung became #1. Even mobile phone, about 10, 15 years ago, #1 was Nokia. Is that right? And the Sony phones. When the first phone that I used in Kenya was that 3,000 shilling phone where there's a torch. And it can even turn into a weapon. You throw it, people will die. And you play snake game during the service time. Is that right? Yes. We'll say yeah. Yes. But now, Nokia, Sony Ericsson, and all these phones, the BlackBerry was the best. But now, you cannot find any one of them. Samsung phone is one of the best mobile phones in the world. So when you add all these Japanese, the best 8 companies probably put together, Samsung company is still much 8 times the profit is bigger than them, even bigger than Toyota as well. Everyone, when the mindset changes happen,